What's up, you motherfuckers? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a video where I talk about some of the worst UFC champions, mostly in the modern era, and I do stress modern era because I couldn't be fucked going back and looking at champions like Forrest Griffin or Josh Barnett or fucking, I don't know, Tim Sylvia, and making a list out of all them, because if I went back to the old days, we'd be here all day, and I don't have all day. So yeah, here's a list of all the worst UFC champions in the modern era. Starting off the list, we have Eddie Alvarez. Now look, I like Eddie Alvarez. He's a fun fighter. He seems like a cool guy, so I'm not going to be too harsh on him here. But let's be real, he didn't exactly have the most impressive title run. Eddie Alvarez came into the UFC in 2014 after having a long career in Bellator and fought Cowboy Cerrone in his debut, lost that fight, then got two split decision wins, one over Gilbert Melendez and then another over Anthony Pettis, then got a title shot. And he did win the belt against RDA in impressive fashion, but then he went on a few months later to get absolutely embarrassed by Conor. Then he had that no contest with Poirier. Then he KO'd Justin Gaethje and was the first to beat him, so that was pretty cool. Then he lost to Poirier in the rematch. Then after that he got cut. So yeah, not the most impressive title run. He didn't defend the belt and never quite got back into the title picture, and ultimately got cut for some reason, or I don't know if he got cut or if he left the promotion or whatever the case was, but either way, he didn't stick around too long after losing the belt. So yeah, probably one of the worst champions in the modern era. Definitely the worst lightweight champion in the modern era. Next on the list, we have Sean Strickland, and again, I like Sean Strickland. I know a lot of people have kind of turned on him, but I'm still a fan of his. But again, he didn't exactly have the most impressive title run either. He had a decent resume going into his title fight with Adesanya. He had a win over Brendan Allen, which aged pretty well, a win over Uriah Hall, a win over Jack Manson, and a win over Nassourdine Imavov, which is aging better and better every day. And what do you know, he goes out there and absolutely dominated Israel Adesanya, abused him for 5 rounds when no one was really expecting it, and became the middleweight champion. But like many expected, including myself, we figured he wouldn't have a long reign because Dricus was up next, and Dricus went out there and had a much closer fight than a lot of us were expecting. Like, honestly, I thought Dricus was just going to run through Strickland. A lot of people thought Strickland won that fight. People are still crying robbery to this day, even though I personally thought Dricus won. Afterwards, he then had a split decision over Paulo Costa, and now he's getting another title shot. Again, I wouldn't really say Strickland was that bad of a champion. I mean, he did lose his belt in a close fight that arguably could have went to him. But I just figured his resume and his reign overall just kind of falls short compared to a lot of other champions nowadays, especially in the modern era, where there are far more impressive champions or champions that have had longer reigns with better resumes. I mean, he kind of only got a title shot because there was really no one else to fight. I mean, he got a title shot off of beating Abus Magomedov. But yeah, moving on. Next on the list, we have Luke Rockhold, who, in my opinion, probably had the most potential out of all these champions to be a great champion, but he never quite lived up to that potential. He had a pretty good run leading up to the belt, where he was a champion in Strikeforce and defended his belt 2 times, came into the UFC, got KO'd by Vitor Belfort. Then after that, he went on about a 5-fight win streak, up to winning the belt against Chris Weidman, and then he lost the belt in his first defense to fucking Michael Bisping, of all people, who we will get to later, spoiler alert. Then after that, he had a win over David Branch. Then after that, he went on a 3-fight losing streak, so he never quite could get back to the title picture. He also was pretty inactive after losing the belt, only fighting pretty much once a year. Then had a 3-year layoff, fought Costa, and then retired. But yeah, he had all the skills to be a dominant champion. He had really good kicks, really good striking, and amazing grappling, especially his jiu-jitsu, but he just had no chin. And he had terrible boxing defense, which was ultimately what led to his placement on this list and his downfall. Next on the list, we have a guy who I'm more than happy to be harsh to, Sean O'Malley, who probably out of everyone on this list probably has the worst resume, given that he's such a manufactured star. But yeah, after beating non-stop cans for God knows how long, they gave him a shot against Piotr Jan, where he won a robbery decision. He then got a shot against Aljamain Sterling, who they rushed back from his fight against Henry Cejudo to give O'Malley a leg up. He beat him, fair play. Then he fights Chito Vera in probably one of the most undeserved title fights. Yeah, he put the masterclass on him, but it's not like he should have been in there with him anyway. Then he fights the real #1 contender in Merab, and gets absolutely dunked. I don't know why the UFC was so insistent on getting this guy into the title picture. I don't know why they're so obsessed with trying to prove to us that he's a star when it's pretty evident he's clearly not a star. Even the title of his Wikipedia page has brackets saying fighter. Like the fact that they have to tell us that he's a fighter. That's enough proof to show that he's not a star. Not only that, they never reveal the numbers for any of the pay-per-views anymore, so it's not like they can't prove that he's a star. And they probably did flop. I mean, the Aljamain Sterling pay-per-view flopped. The Sphere probably didn't sell that well, given that the card wasn't that stacked. 299 probably sold really well, but that was because it had Poirier and the co-main, and the entire fucking roster on that card. Yeah, all that in a desperate attempt just to prove that he's a star. And honestly, they're probably going to give him another title shot against the winner of Umar and Marab. Like, he's probably not even going to fight Piotr Jan, or Henry Cejudo, or Corey Sandhagen, or whoever in the meantime. He's probably just going to sit out, and much like Adesanya, they're going to give him another title shot because they're that convinced that he's a star. And he's probably going to lose again, so yeah, I guess I'm alright with that, if he does, but he does not deserve another title shot over someone like Piotr Jan. Make him fight a contender. He was not that good of a champion. He didn't really deserve to fight for the belt in the first place. Have him fight a contender. Well, what do we have here? Mr. Jamahal motherfucking Hill. Ugh, where do I even begin on this guy? Jamahal was on a decent streak when he got a title shot. He had a win over Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, and Thiago Santos. And because the vacant title fight between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev ended in a draw, they threw together him versus Glover in a desperate attempt to get a new champion. And what do you know, he beat up Glover's 42-year-old ass for 5 rounds. And then later vacated the belt because he got injured because he's too fucking fat and he injured his Achilles playing basketball. Then they gave him an immediate title shot on his return against Jamahal Hill. Many people saw that as his first title defense or whatever, or a title unification bout, and he got fucking slept in 1 round. To be honest, I don't know what made people think he had what it took to beat Alex. I thought maybe he has a puncher's chance, but other than that, I did not see why people thought he had the skills he did to beat Alex Pereira. And ever since then, he's just been bitching and moaning and complaining online about how the fight was rigged, yada, 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 yada. And now he's fighting not Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka. And I am praying to Christ that he gets slept with a fucking spinning elbow or some shit. But yeah, in terms of his actual title reign, he beat a 40-year-old Glover who was coming off of a war to Yuri Prochazka and probably was never the same since. He never defended the belt because he's too fucking fat and he injured his Achilles. And even before he won the belt, I mean, who has he beat? Post Jones, no knees, Thiago Santos, Jimmy Crute, who has some of the worst striking I've ever seen, OSP, who is arse, and fucking Johnny Walker. People seriously thought this guy was going to KO Pereira because he KO'd Johnny Walker? Fucking welcome to the club. Fucking Ankalaev has KO'd Johnny Walker, Volkan Ozdemir has KO'd him, Corey Anderson's KO'd him, some random guy on the regional scene in Brazil KO'd him, a fucking amateur boxer who's half his size KO'd him. Welcome to the club. I don't think Jamahal Hill's ever going to win the belt back. I hope he doesn't. He's probably not even going to fight for the title again. Well, hopefully. I mean, he might fight for the title again just because the light heavyweight division's that shallow. And if he does, I pray he gets KO'd again. Moving on. Next on the list, we have Cody Garbrandt. Now, I'm not going to rip into Cody Garbrandt too much because, man, this is just getting sad at this point. But yeah, Cody Garbrandt was undefeated when he went up against Dominic Cruz. Had wins over guys like Thomas Almeida and, yeah, not really anyone else of note. But what can I say? The bantamweight division was in a little bit of a slump at the time. I mean, TJ had just lost to Cruz. Uriah Faber had already fought him 3 fucking times, so there really wasn't anyone else. So they gave him Cody when he was ranked number 8. A lot of people didn't think he was going to win. But what do you know? He went out there and shocked the world. And I think this is a prime example of how styles make fights. Like, honestly, I just think Cody has the right style to beat Cruz. I mean, they're pretty similar. The only difference is Cody has power and Cruz has a chin. But yeah, he defeated Dominic Cruz. And look, a lot of people kind of overrate that performance. Like, they act like it was some absolute masterclass. But it was a 48-47 decision. Like, the Volk Holloway trilogy fight was more dominant from Volk. But yeah, it seemed like he was going to be dominant for a while. But then he fought TJ Dillashaw. got KO'd, fights him again, got an undeserved rematch, gets KO'd again, then gets KO'd by fucking Pedro Munoz, and he's kind of been losing ever since. I mean, he did get a win over washed-up Rafael Assunção, and then over cans like Brian Kelleher and Trevin Jones, who's not even in the UFC anymore. But man, the fall-off just keeps getting worse and worse. It's pretty clear he's not getting back to the title picture, yet alone fighting for the title and becoming a champ again. Honestly, he may as well just pack it in, because honestly, I think his career's wraps. I think just have one more fight and then retire. Moving on to, in my opinion, the worst champion in the UFC, at least in the modern era. Now, I know this has been in no particular order for the most part, but I thought I'd save the worst for last, Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping had a long-ass run in the UFC leading up to his title shot, which I'm not going to break down, because it's just way too fucking long, and I don't have the time or the patience to do it. But anyway, he was riding a decent streak leading into the Rockhold fight over guys like CB Dollaway and old-ass Anderson Silva. And he got his title shot against Rockhold on short notice. A lot of people thought he was going to lose. I mean, he was a pretty massive underdog. And what do you know it? He goes out there and flukes a win over Rockhold and KOs him in the first round. Unlike most of the champions on this list, he actually defended his belt. However, it was probably the most undeserved title fight of all time, as he defended this belt against the number 13 ranked 46-year-old Dan Henderson, who already KO'd him. And he barely fucking won that fight. He then sits out for a year, ducks Whitaker, ducks Romero, ducks Chris Weidman, ducks the Rockhold trilogy, ducks Gegard Mousasi, Jacare, pretty much everyone, and fights GSP, and fucking loses. Now, I was never really a hater of Bisping until I started listening to his fucking commentary, and oh my god, he has some of the worst commentary ever. Oh my word! I can't even do the impression. But yeah, he's just insufferable now. I wouldn't be so harsh on him if it wasn't for his fucking god-awful commentary. But even then, he still is probably the worst champion of all time. I mean, he was a journeyman who kind of fluked his way into becoming a champion, got an undeserved first title defense, and then loses the belt to the first person decent. I still wonder to this day what fucking Romero would have done to him. Probably would have been a repeat of the first Dan Henderson fight. But anyway, that is the list. Anyway, guys, that was the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Get me as many subscribers and views as possible, because I hate my job and I want to stop working 9 to 5 or 7 to 3 or whatever fucking time I work. Anyway, all hail the Marlin Army, and I will see you guys in the next video. Last but not least, all WMMA champions,